Good morning. A pleasure to address you here. And what I was planning to do was to go through a number of things that have been happening superficially. If there's further questions, we can answer them in depth. We also have Dean Ward, Dean Kersling, Dean Hutchins somewhere. I saw her somewhere. Oh, figured she'd left already. No. And maybe a few others will wander in. So good morning, and let's start. The first announcement is 2 new deans. I think you all know that. Dean Renee Hutchins, stand up, Renee, so they can see what Carry Casual looks like. Okay. I think it's wonderful that the 2 days, are there 2 days? 1 day is Carry Casual, where as long as you wear something that's got the University of Maryland related topic on it, that's acceptable. I kind of like that. I wonder if Dr. Ward would let me do that. Would you let me do that? Yeah. The second is Dean Mark Gladwin from the School of Medicine. I was with him all morning. He's here and also full of energy. And so I urge you to welcome him as well. The topics that I wanted to emphasize were one, the general category of leadership and development. And I think most of you know, and I think there's more staff than faculty here, so I'll try there, but understand that there's faculty things going on. We've maintained an active interest in making sure that there are development opportunities for faculty and staff to develop their leadership skills. And Dr. Ward and I last night greeted the PULP, the next cohort of the President's University Leadership Program. And there's quite a few staff and faculty in that. And I hope that we will continue to do those kinds of programs, because to me, they're very important for the development of the staff and faculty. And a new program that just started is called LEAPS. Now, I have no idea. Oh, let's see here. LEAPS. Leaders in Education, Academy of Presidential Scholars. So one of the things that I certainly dreamt of for a long time was that we would have an Academy of Educators on this in this institution. Now, most of you may not think much about that. It does say university in the title, doesn't it? It does mean we teach, doesn't it? And yet I would dare say, I'll leave Dr. Ward out, but Dean Hutchins and Dean Kersling are probably like me. They've never taken a single education course in their lives. Jane, have you taken one? And Renee hasn't. There's Mark. There's a Mark. Please come in and sit down. But this is an opportunity to teach, to give the opportunity for faculty here to learn how to be better teachers. And to contribute to the scholarly activity of learning how to educate better, and to further their careers and to become an expert. So that's something that I get a lot of pleasure out of. And as this develops, I just have great expectations for it. Now, for this group, there's also the Future of Work Task Force. And some of you will know about that. Is anybody here on that task force? And so, tell us what you're doing. What are you doing? Or are you just talking?
Thanks, Mary. What the workplace will look like moving forward, we're examining different research and surveys and articles and things like that, so that we can make a recommendation to leadership about what the workplace will look like at UMB moving forward.
Any other comments on that one? It's an important topic. It's a topic that I don't know the answer to. It's also a topic that I know one size doesn't fit all. And what will be right in some locations will not be right in other locations, but we'll figure that out and hopefully make it work for this university. It's been working so far, and some of you may know, in an effort to conserve power, but also to address this kind of issue, the Saratoga building now, Clara, right, on Fridays is not heated or air conditioned above a certain threshold, with the idea that people will be teleworking that day. So we're trying out different things in the university to see what works. Of course, we don't have students in the Saratoga building, so that makes a difference. So that's going on. Another thing which I get great pleasure out of hearing is Dr. Forbes Berthold here. I don't see her. So one of the things that our Chief Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Officer, one of the things we wanted her to do when she got here, and she wanted to do it, was to create a network. So it's Faculty of Color Network. And the idea here was to make this an environment where our faculty of color felt like they were part of this program, that they were part of the university, that they had a chance to meet and work with one another, that they had their own role models, et cetera. And so that is just scheduled to kick off on the end of November. And the idea would be to create this climate of inclusiveness, as well as to help these faculty develop their career goals and to stay at UMB and be a part of us. So that's happening. And if you have questions, I'm sure Dr. Forbes Berthold would be more than happy to answer questions. And the idea here, actually, this happened before COVID, where we rearranged my office so that we could have lunches or early dinners with various faculty groups. And this was one of the faculty groups that I wanted to target. So that's an area that we will continue to push on to develop this atmosphere and environment that's inclusive, where people belong. Any questions on that one? Silent group. Another thing that you all perhaps saw about was the Center for Violence Prevention. So we had the good fortune of the Sherman Foundation, Mrs. Betsy Sherman, who donated a sizable chunk of money to us to develop a violence prevention program. That is led by Dr. Tom Scalea, whom many of you know, but it also has a heavy role for the School of Law and the School of Social Work, where they're playing, they're relying on their expertise. And, you know, one of the remarkable things about UMB is that we have so many things going on, but at the same time, I don't know that everybody knows all the stuff going on. So part of the deal here will be to learn what's going on in the various schools, particularly social work and law, because I think many of us don't know those things. And then to get them all to work toward a common goal of defining how we prevent violence, how we interact with the community, how we can help that problem improve or go away even. So that's a major effort. Dean Hutchins, you want to make any comments about that center?
No, not particularly, but so we're very excited about the work that we're going to be doing. It's going to build on work that is already happening in the law school and expand that work out. And so we're very, very excited about the partnership.
Thank you. You know, it's always funny, you listen to, do you want to make any comments about that? No, but okay, I love that actually. I think that's really cool. So that program is kicking off, and we're in the midst of searching for an executive director. And I hope that we have someone of national expertise in this particular topic. Another program that's in a school is the School of Nursing, West Baltimore Heart Health. Now, Dean Kirstling made me promise not to ask her about it. But this is basically Pathways to Health Equity. It's in conjunction with the Maryland, I have to always read these, Community Health Resources Commission. And the whole idea is to look at disparities in hypertension, social isolation. And those of you who came to convocation, remember that a School of Nursing speaker, Dr. Yolanda Obolu, talked about this topic. And so this is an important topic, and the School of Nursing is going to do even more about that. There's a new master's degree program happening, a Master's of Science in Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Leadership program. Who wants to comment about that? Dr. Lilly, do you want to comment about that?
Of a certificate program in the graduate school around intercultural leadership, which I actually did that certificate program. So I know quite a lot about it. It was 4 courses and as it started, but we explored things like the history of race in the United States and understanding how to apply EDI principles when you're in leadership roles, particularly in universities, but also in healthcare institutions. And the demand was so high for that learning that students were telling us they'd like to continue on and do even more work. So we developed a master's degree to go along with it. And that certificate program stacks into the master's degree. So you can start small, and if you continue to be interested, well, you can go earn an advanced degree.
And so every one of you in this room would be eligible to sign up for that, everyone. Yes, and I think it's a great opportunity. So please know about this. And if you want to have more leadership skills in this area, here's your opportunity. There are a number of other things that I could talk about, but I wanted to get to a couple of things because I think these are relevant to our community. You all drive to work. You all drive to work today. Okay, you all come to work every day. You know all of the problems that you hear about in Baltimore. And I want you to know that there's a lot of activity, not only within the schools, but at the campus level on this topic. And so I wanted to mention a few of them so that you would know that we're paying a lot of attention to this. And many of them fall into safety and security, although not all of them. So maybe I will start with the squeegee kids, or whatever the proper term is these days for that. There is a major effort by the Downtown Partnership, of which UMB is a member, to addressing this. We're not directly addressing this, but we are participating in the discussion and activity because it is in the end a city government law enforcement issue, but that is on our radar screen and we're paying attention to this. A more relevant thing to all of us is for those of you who walk on the fringes of the campus, in fact, what you notice is that there are some activities that are not all exciting. Utah Street is a good example. So those of you who have been to the Hippodrome or been to the Lexington Market soon to open, there's a lot of activities there in drug dealing. And I'm actually pleased to say that we're doing a lot of effort, and Kyla Liggett-Creel, who's not here probably today, in the School of Social Work and the school, along with our police force, are working very hard on that area of the street to make it safe. Make it safe doesn't mean do away with the people. Make it safe means let's not have drug deals going on there, and let's make it so that when you walk down the street, you feel comfortable. So a lot of attention there. I wish I could tell you that we have solved it. But on the other hand, when you look at the metrics that we have relative to drug deals taking place, et cetera, that is markedly reduced. So I think we're making progress, but it goes to show you that it's not a simple solution of the police coming in and pushing people away. It's not that at all. It's really about giving those individuals other opportunities that hopefully will improve their life. And so we're looking at the entire fringe of UMB, the edges just off campus or just on campus, and asking the question of how can we do things better there? How can we make it safer? How can we make it so you feel safe, et cetera? The chairman of the board of UMMC was telling us that Saturday night she was in the emergency room with a friend, and at 1 a.m. the friend got admitted and she walked to the parking lot and didn't exactly feel safe. And that's just, we can't have that on this campus. So we're looking at all of these things with a lot of energy, and I hope you'll see effects of that. So let's call that the west side, and that includes not West Baltimore, but the business area on the east part of our campus, part of the city, part of the economic base of this city. And so however we can improve that, we're sort of trying to put a lot of energy into asking that question and then coming up with solutions. The other thing we're looking at is how do we redouble our efforts in West Baltimore to make a bigger impact yet? I don't have anything specifically ready to report to you, but I will tell you that we're not sitting on the sidelines when it comes to Baltimore and its problems. We are trying to get very involved in those activities. Now, one really high point, you all remember Jay Perman, and you remember Jay used to get up here and dance about the Cure Scholars. You all know what the Cure Scholars are, right? They're a wonderful thing. But even more important, this year, 19 of our Cure Scholars graduated from high school and are in local or regional colleges. Remarkable. So I assure you, Jay is overwhelmed and excited about this, but I assure you, even more importantly, these students have a future that, quite frankly, they wouldn't have had without this program. So we're still pushing that Cure Scholars program hard. The problem with the Cure Scholars is it's 25 or 30 kids a class, and somehow we need to generalize that in a more inclusive manner. So that's still alive and well. The last thing I had on my list was for MLK. So if you know the intersection of Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard and Baltimore Street, and you look on the corner that's next to the Catholic school, we're 99.9% moving ahead. I think it's 100% by now. That we're going to have that the biopark developer is going to build a new building there. It's going to change the face of our campus. It's going to change the face of our biopark. It's going to offer all kinds of interesting opportunities, not just for biotech, but for our community to have jobs and other opportunities. So this is one more piece where we've worked hard to create this. It wasn't easy getting that one over the finish line. And so you'll see that's, I think the groundbreaking is in the next month or so. So that's a really good thing. Dr. Ward, what did I leave out? Questions at this point? Yes, Saifa.
You drive to work every day or, most of the week. And coming into MLK, there's tents and homeless people, and they seem to sometimes leave, but now I see that they're back. My question is, are there any initiatives to correct or to help that issue?
Yeah, I don't see the chief here, and I don't see Dawn here. I'll try to answer that, but I think others may have things to add. So our police force has been working with the Baltimore City Police to work with those individuals, but it's not pick them up and move them. They have rights. And I think the law is pretty clear on that. I'm amazed it's a First Amendment right, Dean Hutchins? Okay. And so they have rights to be there. And so in order to, quote, solve that problem, you're going to have to give them options to go to shelters and places like that. And there was a major effort a couple of months ago involving our police, and they were in a social services mindset, and there was progress, and then there was moving back. So I think I would say to you, it's a difficult problem. People are paying attention to it, but I wish I had a solution to tell you about. One of the things that's been remarkable to listen to has been the city government and how the law affects what you can do to the squeegee kids, et cetera. Squeegee kids doesn't feel right, but the individuals on the squeegee workers, Dr. Ward tells me, that there are really laws that protect, they have a right to be there as long as they don't do things that are bad, if I can use that word. Does that sound right, Dean Hutchins? Okay, and so you're limited as to what you can do. And I've heard that the city attorneys talk about this, and so the city, from a certain point of view, can only do so much as well. So they got rights. Other questions? Sorry, I didn't answer that well enough, Seifa. Other questions? Alex has a question.
We have an anonymous virtual question. We have actually 33 people in our virtual audience today. One of them writes, is our teleworking policy going to change by any chance before the Future of Work Task Force finalizes their recommendations?
Not that I know of. I mean, we changed our telework policy, what, Roger, May, June, somewhere in there, or earlier. Time flies during COVID. We changed our policy to make it more flexible and yet still give schools individual discretion on how to administer it. I can't see that policy changing right now. We'll wait and see what the recommendations are and whether they require a policy change or not. I'm sure we'll look at it, but I don't have a better answer than that. Anybody else here involved in that? I don't see. Okay, so I'm sorry, that's the best I can do. Another one.
Well, I don't have another question, but I should let you know that Diane Forbes-Berthoud couldn't be here today due to reasons beyond her control, but she is in the audience. So if there is a question to direct to her, I'm sure she'll be able to answer it.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any other questions from our virtual audience? Other questions? How about those of you in, oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Jarrell, thank you so much for mentioning Kyla's work on Utah Street. But I wanted to know, is there any plans or perhaps activities going on now to help ease some of the concerns with the Lexington Market Metro Station? I'm getting some concerns from staff employees.
Yes, so I can tell you a little bit about that. And so those of you who know Utah Street near Lexington Market, there's a major bus and subway terminal there. And there's a lot of people, and there should be a lot of people there. The problem isn't a lot of people. The problem is some of the people are dealing drugs and you feel uncomfortable about that. So in addition to what the School of Social Work and our police force is doing, the Downtown Partnership, some of you may have heard from Senate President Ferguson that $10 million was being given to Baltimore to improve its infrastructure relative to things like that. And so I believe just short of $1 million has been committed to upgrading the facilities there. And there's apparently ways that they can make it safer by the way they have walls constructed in thoroughfares, et cetera. So there is a major downtown partnership effort to improve that part of it. We have not gotten to a point yet of saying where our police end and the Baltimore police begin. We know it kind of goes down Utah Street as it currently stands. I think we're going to look at, are there other ways that we can make our UMB people feel safer there, but we're in that discussion. We're not in that, here's what we're going to do mode yet. Other questions? Yes.
Is there any initiative taking place for faculty, staff, and students to get the new bivalent vaccine?
That's a great question. And I think I don't have an answer for that. I know CVD is not doing the trial, but I don't think we've asked that question yet. So I think that's one we need to ask. I know it's available in CVS and places like that, pretty freely available, but that's about all I know. I'm sorry.
I have some faculty asking about it.
So we need to make that one. Alex, are you writing things down? Who's writing things down? Or is it my job? My job. I like being self-sufficient. Other questions? Come on, those of you in the back. Come on, Ms. Peartree. You just can't stand there and not ask a question. Don't you have a question? Those of you in the back, anybody? Dr. Alvarez, anything you want to talk about students? You guys hate this, I know.
Hi, Dr. Jarrell. I have a question about the upcoming flu season. Oh, sorry, I'm short.
Oh, there you
so-
are. Oh, hi, hi, Jessica.
Hi, Dr. Jarrell. I've been seeing in the news that they're anticipating the upcoming flu season to be particularly terrible. Are we trying to get ahead of that by encouraging vaccines or providing vaccines on campus like we did with COVID?
Go ahead, MJ. Were you going to answer that?
I can partially answer in that there will be the annual flu clinic partnership between the School of Pharmacy and the Health Sciences Human Services Library on October 20th. So there'll be opportunities to sign up for the flu vaccine at that point. I don't know of any other initiatives, but I can tell you about that one.
You think that's going to be flu only, or do you think that's?
We're in negotiations to talk about the COVID piece of it
So
as well.
maybe that'll answer part of your question. You know, it's complicated as to, well, I think we're getting out of the mandate business for faculty and staff. And people have to want to do this. If you've got hospital privileges or hospital activities or patient activities, you really are obligated to get it. I can hear that we need to think about vaccines a little bit more. Dean Kersling's now shaking because we're going to have to start a new vaccination clinic in the campus center.
Anymore. So I was vaccinated yesterday for the flu and the COVID at Walgreens, and unless you had a respiratory response to your previous vaccines, you can walk out the door. So
Pretty neat.
anyway,
Pretty neat. Other question, Patty, you didn't get away.
Would just say that we are finishing up 2 weeks of really welcoming all students back to UMB through the fall kickoff. And so encourage you, if interested, to stop by on Friday. There is a student involvement fair. If you have offices where you would want to do some outreach to students, encourage you to contact me and I'll get you connected to the right folks. But I think we've changed it a little bit. We wanted students to really focus on, and we heard from students that they really wanted to focus on their school in the first couple of weeks. And so now, these past 2 weeks, we've been focused on welcoming students back to the university.
Other questions? Yes, Dean Kershling.
so you might not be able to answer this, but a number of us have been in the throes of the electrical upgrade construction. And do you have a sense of when it will be done on the campus? Because it's pretty, it's a massive undertaking, literally
It is.
undertaking.
It makes a mess, doesn't it?
It makes
My
a mess. So you have a
golly.
sense of when they'll finish up?
First of all, is there anybody who really knows the answer around here? My understanding, but I'm afraid to say this, my understanding was it wasn't going to all be done till 24. It was a massive undertaking. Now, I could be off by a year, hopefully a year less. Okay, hopefully a year less. But actually, you all, some of you may, Louisa was here. Louisa, when did we have the big power failure in Thanksgiving? Do you remember what year that was? Must have been 10 years ago.
May have been more than 10 years ago.
More than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. Yeah, well, for those of you who were here, we had UMB at the time had a single power source into our entire university, one power source, and it was 2 stories underground in front of the hospital, and it flooded. Oh, surprise. Okay, and the equipment was 40 or 50 years old, and here we were for 3 days on generator power. And remember, you all know what happens at this campus, all kinds of research activities, et cetera. And we kind of woke up and said, wow, we're really vulnerable here. And so we convinced the legislature, who wasn't very happy because this wasn't planned, to give us $80–90 million to tear up the campus and build a second source. And those of you who know where the old recycling center is. It's now in a brand new connection to a different set of power transformers in the city. And so we now will have a dual source of power on this campus and not vulnerable. But it was interesting, and I was surprised to find that only half of the cost was to build the building and put in the transformers and stuff you needed. Half the cost was digging up UMB and laying cables around the campus, because of course you got to get the juice channeled to where it needs to be. So I know that, to answer your question, I know a major component of this was to create new channels for the power to flow. But I think it's still got a ways to go. I wish there were somebody who knew what they were talking about on that topic. But 24, I was astounded to see that it was going to take as long as it was. And I guess you can sort of see why. Dig it all up and put it back. Other questions? Yes, Alex.
I have another anonymous question from the virtual audience. Person writes, we're trying to recruit new students here. Can't offer them a leafy green campus, but shouldn't we offer them something, this isn't written quite right, but we shouldn't offer them a war zone of construction and renovations. Other universities have strict enforced policies regarding what is visible to the public and thus students. Do we not have those here? So this is someone who's clearly unhappy with all the construction things that are going on in various parts of.
Yeah, well, I'm not happy about it either. Any of you have been to College Park, you know, they're putting is it the purple line?
Yes.
Purple line right through the middle of the campus, right in front of the old coal field house. I don't know what the answer is, except that you got to dig it up to put it in. And for this campus to be secure and functioning, you've got to do this. I don't have a better answer, and I'm sorry about that. Other things. I hear a voice. Oh, ice cream. Jennifer's worried about the ice cream. Anybody else? Yes, Flav, Dr. Lilly.
Thanks, President Jarrell. I wonder if you could say a bit more about the new building that's going to be constructed on MLK in the biopark. What will be inside of it? When's it going to start? When do you think it'll be finished?
Mary's here. Mary, what's going to be in it?
It'll be a mixed-use building. Groundbreaking will be this fall. We anticipate that it'll be done in the summer of 2024. There will be some private space there. UMB will also have space. We will have flex labs available for early stage companies in there. And the first floor will be what is known as District Hall and other markets that Wexford builds these buildings in, which will be an open space that will be available during business hours for any entrepreneurs, innovators, community members to use that as well, as it'll be heavily programmed.
Right, and this is being built not on state money or UMB money, it's being built on private funding to build this.
They have similar facilities in Philadelphia. 3675 Market Street is the most recent one, and other communities across the country.
And although you may not think twice about the value of the biopark here, the biopark in the area in Philadelphia has been immensely successful in transforming Philadelphia from what was not a biotech city to being a biotech city. As far as our biopark is concerned, again, Mary, you'd have to correct me, but we have 1,200 people working there
Every day.
And how
Yeah.
many companies now? And
It varies. What we've seen with the biopark is that we went from having quite a few small companies to less but larger companies. For example, Paragon, that was bought by Catalent, is a prime tenant and has 320 employees alone working there. So with this new building, the good news is we'll have more space for more companies that are smaller. So it's about 60 tenants right now.
right. Other questions?
Speaking of buildings, there's a new building on Saratoga and Pine Is that a recycle center? Can you tell us what that would
That's-
be used for?
That's the substation. That's the electrical substation and recycling center. Yeah, no, nobody's asking about the other new building. Who here's from social work? Ah, you're getting a new building, aren't you? Okay, so at Saratoga and Arch Street? No, not quite. You all know where the post office is, right? The little post office there. So behind the post office, there's now a big open lot. And in that lot, funds have been set aside to plan for a new school of social work in that location. And if you know the area, you will also know that right next to that is Metro West, which was where Medicare, Social Security was. It's 1,000,001 square feet, and we're hoping that the state will put Maryland Department of Health or some justice programs there. In any event, we hope that that will be fully occupied, which rejuvenates the north part of this campus in a very significant way. So I'm actually looking forward to that one. And we're supposed to hear about the Metro West building in the next couple of months, what's going to go there. So that will change the face of this campus as well. Nothing else? Yes, Alex.
Maybe the most important question from our virtual audience. Person writes, can people who attended anonymously still come to get ice cream afterwards? But there is actually another anonymous question came in as I was saying that. This is a more serious one. Does UMB have any interest in moving any facilities in the State Center location?
State Center? No, I think we're thinking the opposite. That is that the State Center moves here. That's the plan.
Okay.
Yes. I haven't heard anything about our doing something with the State Center, but I might be the last to hear too. So, other things? Yes.
Hi, Denise Meyer with Operations and Maintenance and EVS Environmental Services here on campus. I just contacted Melissa Moreland, who's our Director for Operations and Maintenance, and she confirmed that there's a rough estimate for completion for electrical infrastructure in 2025, but that could be a little longer due to issues with the South Station. So I just wanted to provide that update. And I also wanted to take a minute to talk about the recycling center. The recycling center is going to be outfitted completely to encompass, I would say, roughly 65 to 70% of our recycling processes and recycling that we're going to do here on campus. We hope to have an open house in conjunction with the sustainability department after the building is actually cleared for occupancy, which we hope is going to be in the coming months. So when we have that open house, I think we're going to be able to show you some of the, the features and the equipment that we have in the building, as well as meet some of the staff and just learn more about sustainability and recycling here at UMB. A lot of things are happening with conjunction with the sustainability group, and opening that building is going to really help us with our efforts and improve and increase them across the campus. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Denise. And that gives me the entree to talk about sustainability briefly. We do have a program in sustainability. It's got 3 individuals who are very focused on this. I don't see Anna here. Anna Girding leads that, and we're looking at every possible way that we can be more responsible in that arena. That includes places to charge your car. That includes recycling. That includes looking how we can get our energy from solar and other sources, and a lot of other things. And that's really important to me. And I hope it's important to you too. So a lot of effort and I hope investment going into that area. And by the way, it's interesting that the state of Maryland, the legislature is driving this. They've set goals for us, and they've set penalties if we don't make the goals. So there's a lot of good reasons to pay for this, to make this happen. One of them is not to have to pay the state for not meeting their goal. So, well, it looks like Alex, I always used to think Alex used to make up these questions from the virtual audience. Alex, you got any more questions?
Not at this time, no.
Well, so maybe with that, we'll do what Jennifer wants you to do and go outside and get ice cream and enjoy the social environment. So thank you all very much for attending.